Dogman in the Suburbs, 2023. Dear Scary Stories NYC. Hi, I'm a suburban husband and father that you can call Dave. I had a developing situation with what I realized was a dogman a while back, and I kind of initially went into shock. When my wife and I looked into buying this house, we studied the local schools, we looked into the crime rate, the taxes, we really did our homework. But we never thought the proximity to the nearby woods would place us in a situation where our children's lives, or even those of my wife and myself, might be in danger because of mythical supernatural monsters that turn out to be very natural after all. I was immobile for a few hours, but going into shock wasn't an option for me. I had to protect my family, but I didn't understand what I was dealing with. I started on the internet, looking up anything to do with werewolves and dogmen in modern America. And that's how I came across your program as well as a number of others. It came to me that these creatures, if they were really here in my area, would have also been seen and experienced by my neighbors, or at least by some of them. I decided I would get myself a small handheld digital recorder, and I would go around and start interviewing any neighbors who had seen anything strange. It's in my nature to ask questions when I want answers, so this is what I did. I went into this with the theory that humanity's destruction of the natural world is pushing dogmen out of the deep woods and into suburbia. I'm not sure the stories I got from people around here really bore that theory out, though. It turns out people around here have been seeing the dogman out on the edges of suburbia for generations. They just didn't go blabbing about it to the media, like UFO and Bigfoot witnesses did. Maybe because saying you saw a werewolf sounds just that much crazier than saying you saw a flying saucer. But just because something sounds crazy, it doesn't always mean that it is. So now I'm going to present edited down versions of a number of the dogman testimonials I've gathered from other suburbanites here in the area of northwestern Pennsylvania that I live in. I don't want to narrow it down further than that for privacy reasons. I will also be redacting the last names of all the witnesses for the same reasons. Let's start off with a pleasant real estate agent and homemaker I know who has her own dogman story. Narrative number 1. Martha's Dogman. Well, hello there. My name's Martha. I live in a quiet little neighborhood where the most excitement we usually get is the annual bake sale at the community center. But I'm not here to talk about apple pies and chocolate chip cookies. No, I've got a story that'll curl your hair and make your blood run cold. It was about 6 months ago, in the wee hours of the morning. I'm a light sleeper, I always have been. That night I was having a fitful sleep, tossing and turning, when I heard a tapping sound. Tap, tap, tap it went, like someone was knocking on the window. Now I live alone, and there's no tree or anything near that window, so you can imagine how that sound set my heart racing. I sat up in bed, straining my eyes to see in the dark, but I noticed nothing out of the ordinary. The tapping had stopped, but there was a new sound, a low growl, like a dog, but deeper, more guttural. I've never heard anything like it before, and I wasn't sure where the sound was coming from. It scared the bejesus out of me, I can tell you that. I got up, my knees shaking like they didn't want to do what I was telling them to do, and I tiptoed over to that window. I didn't want to look, but I had to know what was out there. I pulled back the curtain just a smidge, and what I saw, Lord, I wish I hadn't seen. There, in the moonlight, stood a creature like something from a horror movie. It was tall, taller than any man I've ever met, and covered in thick, dark fur. But the most terrifying part was its head. It was a dog head, but on a man's body. Its eyes glowed in the dark, and it was staring right at me. I screamed then, and the creature, it just turned and ran off into the night. I called the police, but by the time they got here, there was no sign of it. The cops told me they found a set of large paw prints in the dirt under the window, and that I probably just saw a large wolf leaning against the wall to look in at me. I asked them if they ever heard about a wolf doing that before, standing up and looking in windows. They just shook their heads and told me I wouldn't want to know the kinds of stories they had heard about wolves, and that I should make sure to lock my windows and doors at night. I don't sleep much these days. Every little sound makes me jump. But I know what I saw, and I know I'm not crazy. There's something out there in our quiet little neighborhood. Something that's not supposed to exist. And I pray every night that it doesn't come back. Number 2, Eduardo and the Dogman. Hello my friends, my name is Eduardo. I am an old man and English is not my first language, so please forgive any mistakes. I want to tell you about a terrifying experience I had just the other week. I was walking my little Chihuahua Pepito around our neighborhood. It was a quiet night. The moon was shining brightly, and the air was cool. Suddenly I heard a low growl. I turned around and saw a creature that I will never forget. It was taller than any man I'd ever seen, with a body covered in thick, dark fur. But the most terrifying part was its head, because it was like a dog head, but much larger, with sharp, gleaming teeth and glowing red eyes. It was a Dogman, a creature from the stories my grandmother used to tell me, from when she lived down south. I felt a cold wave of fear wash over me. My heart was pounding in my chest like a drum. I picked up Pepito and I ran as fast as my old legs could carry me. My little dog was squirming in my arms, whimpering and shaking. I knew we had to get away. I could hear the Dogman growling and chasing us. I could feel its hot breath on my neck, but I didn't dare to look back. When I reached the gate to our property, I gently tossed Pepito over the fence, then jumped in myself. In spite of the fact that our fence is no more than 3.5 feet high, the Dogman stopped at the edge of our property and did not follow us past the gate. I have no explanation for that. Maybe you can tell me why it did that. Finally, we reached our front door. I fumbled with the keys, my hands shaking, and managed to unlock the door. I rushed inside and slammed it shut behind us. Safe inside, I looked out the window. The Dogman was standing at the edge of our yard, its red eyes glowing in the darkness. It was even more terrifying when you took a minute to observe it. The creature had fur that was matted and dirty, and its teeth were long and sharp. We watched each other through the window for a minute, then the beast turned and disappeared into the night. I held Pepito close, feeling his little heart beating fast. I was shaking, but I was also filled with a strange sense of relief. We had escaped the Dogman. We were safe. But I will never forget that night. The fear, the chase, the sight of that terrifying creature. It has changed our life drastically. Pepito only gets walked during the day now, and at night, I'm training him to use his new wee-wee pad. Curse you, Dogman. Number 3. French, Loretta, and the Dogman. As you know, I enjoy walking my poodle outside. It's fun for both of us. I used to most enjoy walking her in the cool evenings, but I no longer feel safe doing so since I saw the Dogman in our own neighborhood. It happened one nice evening earlier in the summer. As I was strolling along the dimly lit streets with my precious little poodle, a sense of tranquility enveloped me. The night was calm, and the moon cast a gentle glow upon the pavement. Suddenly, out of the shadows, a low growl pierced the silence, sending shivers down my spine. My heart raced as I turned to see a creature unlike anything I had ever encountered before. The Dogman stood tall on its hind legs, towering over us with its muscular frame. Its fur was a dark matted brown, and its eyes glowed with an eerie intensity. Its snout was elongated, revealing sharp, glistening teeth that seemed to glow in the moonlight. The creature's wolf-like ears twitched with every sound, giving it an uncanny sense of awareness. This had to be the Lugaroo my mother told me about. He is a wizard who can change forms. It was like some mix between a dog and a bear, something you'd never see in a zoo. Yet it looked so much like a real animal at the same time. I can't tell you its nature. I can only tell you its form. And it looked like a dog-headed bear man. Panic gripped me as the dogman lunged toward us, its growls growing louder and more menacing. I scooped up my trembling poodle, feeling its tiny body squirming in my arms. Adrenaline surged through my veins as I raced back home, my heart pounding with each step. Once safely inside my house, I peered through the window, hoping to catch a glimpse of the creature that had caused such terror. In the dim light I could see the Lugaroo lurking in the distance, its eyes still burning with an otherworldly intensity. Its fur was unkempt, matted with dirt and leaves, and its claws were long and sharp, glinting in the moonlight. As I observed the creature from the safety of my home, fear washed over me once again. Its presence felt evil, as if it possessed an ancient primal power. I couldn't help but imagine the horrors that could have befallen us if we hadn't made it back inside in time. I don't think that was just an animal. I think evil has come to our town, and it's changed how I live my life, and changed the dreams that I have at night. Number 4. Dogman bothers a family. Alright, here goes. I'm just a plain man, ain't got much to say. But I gotta tell you about this creepy old dogman monster that's been bothering me and my kin. First time I seen it I was out back, fixing the fence. Caught a glimpse of something big and hairy out the corner of my eye. Turned around and there it was, peeking over the fence, eyes glowing like two hot coals. Scared the daylights out of me, I tell you. Second time it was late at night. I was up, couldn't sleep, and I heard this scratching at the window. I go to look, and there it is again, that dang dogman staring in at me. I hollered and jumped up and down and it ran off, but it left me shaking like a loose window shutter in a bad storm. Third time, my little girl comes running in from playing outside, white as a sheet. Says she's seen the dogman watching her from the woods. I went out there with my shotgun, but it was gone. Still, I ain't letting her play outside alone no more. Fourth time, I was driving home late from work, and I seen it in the rear view mirror following my truck. I floored it, and I lost it, but it gave me a good scare first. Last time, just yesterday, I was out in the barn and I hear this growling sound. I turn around and there it is, the dogman, watching me from the shadows. I chased it off, but I know it'll be back. It's always watching, always waiting. I don't know what it wants, but it's got me and my family living in fear. Number 5. The old lady and her mother's tale of the dogman. Alright, dearie, sit down and let me tell you a story my mama told me when she was just a wee girl. It's about the dogman, a creature she saw thrice when she was carrying me in her belly. Now, don't you go getting scared, 'cause in our family we believe the dogman is a sign of good times and plenty. The first time she saw him, she was hanging the laundry out back. She said he was standing at the edge of the woods, tall as a man, but covered in fur, with a dog's head. He didn't do nothing, just watched her. She was scared, but she felt a strange peace, too. The second time she was walking home from the market, it was getting dark out and there he was, standing in the middle of the road. She said he had glowing eyes, but they weren't mean or anything. He just watched her. Then he turned and walked into the woods. That night she felt me kick for the first time. The third and last time she was in the kitchen making supper. She looked out the window and there he was, watching from the edge of the yard. She said he had a kind look in his eyes like he was watching over us. That night, she dreamt of a bountiful harvest and a healthy baby. A few months later I was born, healthy as a horse and strong as an ox. So you see, dearie, the Dogman ain't nothing to be scared of. In our family, we see him as a sign of good times to come, a symbol of fertility and plenty. So if you ever see him, don't you go running. Just nod your head, say your thanks, and know that good times are on their way. Story number 6. The Old Man and the Pet Disappearances. Well, let me tell you, back when I was just a young one, something strange happened in our quiet little suburb. It was a time I'll never forget, and it all started with that monstrous dog-headed creature I saw one late afternoon. I was just a kid, see, and I was at school just like any other day. But that day something caught my eye. There, at the edge of the woods behind the school, I saw it. A huge dog-headed monster man, just walking along the tree line. It was bigger than anything I'd ever seen, and it sent a chill down my spine. Now, nobody else saw it, mind you. Just me. And I didn't say nothing about it, 'cause who'd believe a kid, right? But then something else happened. Pets started disappearing. Dogs, cats, even a couple of rabbits. All gone just like that, in the week following my sighting of that creature. Now, nobody else saw what I saw, and so nobody else made that connection. They just thought it was some wild animal or maybe a thief. But I always wondered, I always wondered if those pets might have fallen victim to that nomadic dogman that I saw. It's something that stuck with me all these years, and I expect it always will, too. Number 7. The Gym Teacher and the Werewolf. Alright, listen up, I'm a local gym teacher who lives in this neighborhood. And have I got a story to tell you. And now I know you probably expect that I'm just some old jock who likes to blow his whistle and make kids run laps, but I have seen things. Things that would make your hair stand on end. The first time was about 2 years ago. It was a crisp early fall day just like today. The leaves were just beginning to turn, and the air had that sharp bite to it. I was out on the field with a bunch of America's future leaders, running drills, when I saw something out of the corner of my eye. There at the edge of the woods was this thing. I want to call it a dog, but it was big. Bigger than any dog I'd ever seen. I mean, it had the head of a dog, but the body of a hairy monster man. And it was just standing there, watching us. I didn't know what to do, so I ran into the school and got the principal. We both went outside, and sure enough, it was still there. But when it saw us, it took off into the woods. We chased it, but the monster man was too fast. We couldn't catch it. That proves it wasn't someone in a costume, because sooner or later we'd have caught up with him. He'd have gotten the monster suit stuck on a tree, or he'd trip over his monster feet or something. The fact that that beast was able to speed away through uncertain wild terrain indicates to me that he was born to that forest, not to our world. The next time was just last year. It was the same thing, the same creature. But this time it didn't run when it saw us. It just stood there, staring forward at the kids playing. I got a good look at it this time. It was covered in thick, matted fur. And its eyes were the most terrifying part. They were bright yellow, and they seemed to glow in the dim light. It had a long snout, and its teeth, they were sharp, like a wolf's. But then it saw that we adults had seen it, and it took off again. I don't know what it is, or why it's watching our kids, but I know one thing for sure. That creature, that dogman, it's real, and it's out there, in those woods. So stay alert, kids. You never know what you might see. Number 8. The Plumbers and the Dogman. Alright, so there I was, me and my partner Dave, driving down the old country road on our way to fix Mrs. Henderson's leaky faucet. I'm Joe, by the way, your friendly neighborhood plumber. Now, I ain't one for tall tales, but what happened that day, well, it's something I can't quite explain. Now, me and Dave were just talking about the previous night's game when, out of nowhere, this thing darts out in front of the van. I swear on my mother's grave it was like nothing I'd ever seen before. It was tall, real tall, and covered in fur. But the thing that got me was its head. It was like a dog's head, but on a man's body. I slammed on the brakes so hard we nearly skidded off the road. Dave and I just sat there for a minute, hearts pounding, staring at where the creature had disappeared into the woods. We didn't say a word the whole way to Mrs. Henderson's. I mean, what could we say? We'd just seen a dogman, for crying out loud. No, we ain't told anyone about this. You see, people around here already give us a hard time, because we kinda look like those plumbers from that old ghost hunting TV show. If we start talking about seeing Dogman, well, we'd never hear the end of it. But I swear it's the truth. And every time I drive down that old country road, I can't help but look over at those woods, half expecting to see that Dogman again. Okay, now it's back to me, Dave, the guy who collected all these testimonials for you. Now I think it's high time I let you in on my family's personal story, so that you understand what set me off in this direction to start with. Now, I'm just a regular guy, you know. I got a wife, couple of kids, nice little house in the burbs. But I'll be damned if I didn't have the scare of my life, not too long ago. It was a regular Tuesday night. I was out back grilling some burgers for dinner. Kids were playing in the yard. Wife was inside setting the table. Out of nowhere, I see this. I wouldn't even known what to call it back then. Big as a bear, but it wasn't no bear. Had the head of a dog, but it was standing on two legs. I tell you, I'd never been so scared in my life. I yelled for the kids to get inside. And this thing, this Dogman, it just stared at us. And then it turned and ran off into the woods. I didn't sleep a wink that night, I tell you. I kinda went into a state of shock like I told you before. But then I began my search for information. Then I interviewed those people whose testimonials you just heard. The thing that solved the problem for us was something I got from one of your old videos. See, the Dogman isn't afraid of much, but he is afraid of being photographed. So if you surround your property with trap cameras, then they will either go away, or you will get proof of the Dogman. And that sounds like a win-win scenario to me. So next day after learning that, I went out and bought every camera I could afford. Video cameras, still cameras, motion activated, remotely activated, you name it. It cost me almost 2 months' salary, but I would have only spent that money on food and medical expenses anyway, so who cares, right? And then I spent the whole weekend setting them up, covering every inch of my property. I wasn't gonna let that thing come anywhere near my family again. And you know what? Since I set up those cameras, we haven't seen hide nor hair of that Dogman. Not just us either. Nobody in our immediate neighborhood has seen it since. Maybe he was scared off by the cameras, or maybe it just moved on. Either way, I'm just glad my family is safe. So that's my story. It's just a story of a guy like you, who wanted to protect his family. And if that means setting up a bunch of cameras to scare off a Dogman, then so be it. Now I'll pass the mic to your old pal Bigfoot. Biggie? You won't find a nicer EP than Deborah If you look from now to February. Yes, I just rhymed Deborah with February, leave me alone. I'm trying to say thank you and welcome back to Deborah Darcy, who just rejoined our channel memberships. Deborah gets to see our secret uncensored episodes, as well as our over 25 hours of secret uncensored archives. And here to fill you in on all the deets is our international TV spokesmongrel, Henry Lee Dogman. Hank? Thanks, Biggie. And thanks to all of you for watching this far. If you liked it, please click like. If you'd like to see more of our work, please subscribe. And also click that bell icon if you'd like to be notified when we put out a new episode. To become an executive producer, you can donate to us through the thanks button under each of our videos or through our paypal.me/PeterBernard209 page. To receive cool perks like secret uncensored Dogman episodes far too wild to ever run on this channel, you can become a YouTube channel member by clicking the join button, or join our PayPal subscribers club at peterbernard.com. Joining either at the $3 a month level or above gets you access to our over 25 hours of secret uncensored Dogman stories available nowhere else. Do you have a scary story about Dogman or some other kind of high strangeness that happened to you? Let us know by emailing us at scarystoriesnyc@gmail.com or by leaving us a voicemail message at 804-LA-SCARY. You may need to call back on that one. It cuts off after, I think, 3 minutes. And if you don't want to do any of that stuff, thank you for simply watching to the end. Good night, and have a scary tomorrow.
Come back for more scary stories.